it's kind of hard when, you know, you're serious about things and you have other people doing that. So
Right.
here we are.
Okay, so this is the Lone Wolf Show. I have with us today tarot reader and professional astrologer Sirona Rose. Did I pronounce that correctly? Sirona.
Correct. Sirona Rose, yes.
Sirona Rose. And she is by referral by an elder in the pagan community. I will not reveal the elder because she prefers to stay in the shadows. If she comes out of the shadows, this will be her decision. But she is more than welcome to join us. So, Sirona, Miss Rose, so I should say.
You can call me Sirona.
Sirona, what is your spiritual tradition? Do you have a spiritual tradition?
Yes, I'm a third degree priestess of the European Celtic tradition of Wicca witchcraft.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm Wiccan as well, so I would say Mary Mead and Blessed Be and all the formal linguistics, so to speak. And so, as a third degree priestess, have you seen the pagan community, or should I see? Have you seen an influx upon social media platforms of divination, tarot card readers, astrologers, people that'll do spells?
Yes, actually, it seems that, you know, during the lockdown and everyone having to stay at home and find different outlets, sort of, I guess, you can call it outlets. There was a huge rush of readers on TikTok. There was a lot of people that left Facebook, that left Twitter, all this other stuff. And, you know, it just seems like TikTok especially, there's just like everywhere you see, there's someone trying, you know, reading cards. There's someone, they have a book, it's called the Book of Answers. They'll just thumb through it and then, you know, read what they come to. There's a lot of people that have really opened up to their spirituality. And while this is a good thing, and I do, you know, it's because, because the soul is evolving, right? We are here to expand and to evolve. More people are becoming spiritual and are seeing this side as, you know, this side of the world, you know, this side of the plate here, I guess we could say. Most people are kind of shunning away from it because it's considered wrong and bad and of the devil kind of thing. But I feel that more people have opened up and have began to do this. Reading cards is not a hard thing. True, anybody can read cards. Some people just, you know, some people are different. We have different kinds of readers. We have, you know, those that just like to read the definition of the card from the book, and then you have those that really feel it. And I feel that to be a really good reader, you need to know the symbolism of the card, as well as feeling it. Intuition is very important as well. I'm kind of old school that way. So I don't know, I'm into symbolism as well. And, you know, reading cards now is just something that, I'm sorry. Reading cards is something that is just like an everyday pastime, it seems to be, on social media. But I worry that I worry about if the seriousness of it is going to be lost. That's what I worry about.
When you say reading cards, when you say reading cards for our viewers, you mean tarot cards, correct?
Tarot cards, and I also read cartomancy as well. They're different forms. There's tarot cards, there is the oracle cards, and there is cartomancy. And cartomancy, such as the Lenormand deck, is usually around a 22 card deck, and it has different pictures. It reads very different from a tarot. I do know people that do read them like tarot cards, and I don't know if they're good or not. It's really hard for someone to give another tarot reader a reading.
Right.
You know,
That's understandable.
That's been my experience that people have a hard time giving me a reading. So, and I try to be open. I really do. I want to hear. I want to see what they feel and that sort of thing. But you know, um, I feel that a lot of people don't understand the different versions of the reading, such as you have cartomancy, then you have the oracle cards, which usually have, the little phrases on the front of them or the back of them. And then you have the regular tarot cards that 78 cards that, take the traditional form of, the Rider deck.
Right.
That
The
was.
Rider deck. You said
Mm-hmm.
Lemurian deck.
Lenormand.
Okay, Lenormand. Okay, that's
Norman.
something new for me. You had
Right?
said that there's 22 of those cards.
Yes. And
Interestingly
I
enough, in the standard deck of tarot, well, there's a total of 78, 22 of which are the major arcana. So,
correct.
do you think that the deck that you're talking about is just basically the major arcana?
Well, no, because it's very different. I think that they're usually called picture cards. And these were, where reading cards come from, it's so muddied. Its history is so muddied
Mm-hmm.
because, in Egypt, they had the tablets that had the pictures on them. There was a deck found in the 1500s that was Italian, and so forth. But they don't have the same characteristics. And I put my other cards here. I'm going to have to grab my other deck, and I'm going to show you the difference between a cartomancy deck. Do that really quick.
I had just gotten a message
Mm-hmm.
from Melissa Anderson. So I'm going to see if
Yes.
I can't get her, join her with us. Okay, yeah.
If she wants to come on, awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how to get her to come on and see if I can't send her the link. Yeah, the difference between well, the standard deck that I'm used to is the Rider Waite,
Right.
and that
That's
seems
what
to
I
be the
started
only
with.
one. Right, that's the one that I had that I've ever really learned from. The first time I've ever encountered tarot was from the Golden Dawn magical tradition from
Mm-hmm.
some old Israel Regardi books, and now there's just kind of you can get a hold of information with tarot everywhere. So just bear with me
This is the
really quick.
cartomancy deck.
Okay, so yeah, that's definitely something that I haven't really seen too much of. That's interesting. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very interesting.
And the cards on it, they do remind me of regular tarot, but they're just different. Like, this one, we would equate this to the Sun card, but that's not what it
Soul.
means.
Right.
But that's not what it means. And then we have this card, which is, the clouds. And it depends on where it's located in the reading, because you can see with the dark and then the light. And like depending where it is in your reading. So if it's on the left side, that means that you're coming out of that bad time and it's getting better. But if it's on the right side, that means that you're going into that.
Right.
But you're going to come out on the other side.
So So what is your favorite go-to form of divination? Do you favor any particular cards, any particular spread?
Yes. Well, my favorite cards that I like to read from is the Witch's Tarot. And that is the one when I was doing the Astro Tarot on the cauldron.net, the radio station. I was doing the
Mm-hmm.
Astro Tarot show on there. And that is the cards that I always used. I'm getting them out right now. I love this deck. Um, this deck was introduced to me by my high priestess, and it just went with me. I don't have the book, but right here is the back of them.
Beautiful.
See that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're made like the traditional deck. These are traditional cards, whereas you have the King of Pentacles, and then you have the Ten of Cups, which is it's normal. It has that same feel as the Rider deck does. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple cards in here that are a little different, and that's okay. I like that. But as far as spreads, there's I have a good friend. She, when I was living up in Savannah area, we were like partners in crime. We did all kinds of different events and stuff together. But she created this spread, and I like to use it as a 7 card. It's just called, it's about getting to the meat of what's going on. So it's like, where you're coming from, where you are, this is what is blocking you, where can you get help, what is the advice, that sort of thing. So it's a 7 card spread. It's really quick. So I like using that one. That one's really good.
Very, very good. Very good. Yeah. I like how that, I love the cover art from that. It's fantastic.
Oh God.
Fantastic.
This is really fantastic. Like, here is the wheel. The wheel is just,
The Green
it's
Man.
remarkable. Can you see that?
It looks like the Green Man.
It is. It's the Green Man, and then you have like the young man here, and you have the eagle over here, and then you have the lion, and then you have the stag. So you have all the areas of the wheel on this card, and I really like that. I think it really speaks volumes for this deck. The artwork is great. It's very traditional. So. And I love symbology as well. When you read a card, you should read a card, because you never know. One of my favorite card in the deck is the Fool. I love the Fool card, and he carries a white rose.
Major Arcana, 0.
Yeah.
Right.
0, the starting point. And most people do not realize what the white rose represents.
What does the white rose?
That's a new beginning.
Okay.
The new beginning, the purity, the freshness of starting out with a clean slate. And, and the Fool, he's carrying his bag behind him, right? But he's only carrying what he needs. He's not carrying all the other crap from behind. He's happy. He's go-lucky. And that is, let me see if I can find it in this card, in this deck. That's why it's my favorite card. I mean, it holds the promise of a wonderful, bright future.
Right. Astrologically, every person corresponds with one card, correct?
Well, they say that different cards do that. But for me, this is where I kind of tiptoe over the lines a little bit. And they have cards. They have different cards that come with the signs on them and different. But I don't know. I'm an Aries, and I really resonate with the Fool card. But my card in tarot is the Emperor.
Okay.
So you see what I'm saying? And the Fool card to me is, I don't know, it's that wonderful, great beginning of, it is that push of energy that Aries is supposed to represent, right? So maybe I have an Aquarian moon, so maybe it's that.
Mhm.
So
Now you said
were you
you said that you are an Aries.
correct?
And what you mean by that is that astrologically your sun is in Aries,
It's,
correct?
yes,
Now
my
would
sun
you
sign.
your sun size it is in Aries. Now
Mhm,
also besides a tarot card reader, you're also an astrologer, correct?
correct.
And within astrology, if see the layman or basic astrology is, your Aries, your Pisces, your Scorpio, you'll read the newspaper about, what's the daily rhetoric
Hmm.
and this and that. Would it be safe to say that your sun sign is only a small fraction of your astrological makeup? In other words, if my sun is in Aries,
Hmm.
that'll only make probably an 8% dissertation on my whole natal chart.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like when you can look at it, it's like um, the sun is the father, the moon is the mother, and then the
Mhm.
rising is what is produced.
Mhm.
So I think that it is significant, but what I really think is really powerful is your rising sun,
Mhm.
because that is how the world sees you.
Mhm.
But when you're looking for compatibility, for example, everybody wants, oh, who is my soulmate? Who am I compatible
Right.
with? They'll go straight to their sun sign and they'll just look at that. Whereas, to me, that's not a good reading. You need the
Mhm.
full chart to see where all of your planets are, but also where's your Venus? Venus represents the heart. So, where is your Venus? That matters.
Mhm.
And Venus is our values, it's what we desire, it's love, and wherever that's at, that's going to really um, you know um, influence your relationship. And I think that when you look at that Taurus, when you look at that Venus is a Taurus's planet. But when you look at that, you have to see if those signs are compatible as well.
Mhm.
I think that
Right.
matters.
So astrology and tarot, two different forms of divination. Would that be a correct
Mm,
analysis?
I don't think that astrology is so much divination as much as it is an energetic influence. Because to me, I see energy is what it is, what it is. It is up to us that, will, label it as our perception, right? So it just offers us an energy. This is the energy with these placements, with these aspects. This is the energy that's coming forth. Now, what you do with that is in your hands.
Mhm.
So you have to make that. You have to work to create. And even in tarot, we all know, and I tell this to people before any reading, your future is not set in stone. Sure, there's certain things that you may go through that, is you're kind of destined to go through, but at the biggest extent of it, your future is changeable. So,
Mhm.
when you're giving a card reading, I'm showing you this is where you're going. If you are on this path,
Mhm.
you can change this path. You have that
Mhm.
ability. But you have to want to work to do it. Do you understand that?
If you continue to do the same things you're doing now, this is what your path will be. This is not written yet.
Right.
Right.
This is, this is the flow of where this energy is going to take you. If you're walking this path, well, this is what's going to take you. This can help you. This can help you see. With the different cards, you can say, okay, this card can help you and this card can hinder you, and so forth. And I say that because, and then I added before when I said certain things are kind of like that destiny kind of thing. Well, that's where I see the major arcana coming in, because when we have those cards, those are like our trumps. They trump over everything. And this is an influence that is going to be present. Sort of like when you have the Chariot, for example. And this is, you get this in there and it's saying, well, you have to keep going on this, it depends on where it's at in the reading, of course. But say for if you were just picking a card and you pick the Chariot, right? And, it's like, okay, well, keep going. You have been on this path. You've been working at something. You have been working hard. You need to keep going. You're not done yet. I know you're tired. I know that you feel like throwing in the towel. You feel like quitting, whatever. Don't throw in the towel just yet. You're almost there. So it's that kind of thing. So that's
Okay.
how I feel about it. Mm-hmm.
So for our viewers here, we have Miss Sirona Rose, a practice astrologist and professional tarot card reader, a third degree high priestess in the European Celtic tradition. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I'm a priestess. I haven't got the last part of it yet. So, but yes, I am a priestess of the European Celtic tradition. Yes.
Intriguing. Okay, I have 2 questions. Gotta run by you. Big thing on social media. I have my opinions. I'll leave them alone, but really want to know yours. First thing, terminology. Seems like you're a seasoned witch, been around for a while. Good to know. The term baby witch, not something that we heard 20 years ago. What's your opinion on the word?
People can call themselves what they want to call themselves. But I don't know. I kind of feel like that's an insult. I don't know. Baby witch. It sounds too much like a cartoon. I think that's where Hollywood kind of bleeds over into reality.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough. I like that a lot. Second question for you. Again, a lot of rhetoric, especially on TikTok. A gatekeeper. Now this actually applies to you more so than a lot of other Wiccan traditions, because I'm pretty sure that within the Celtic Wiccan circles, there is a gatekeeper in some circles. Because I was involved in a Celtic coven before, a bit of information for you. And they had somebody that was called the gatekeeper. What is a gatekeeper?
Well, from where they are going with that, our coven is closed. So, if people have been, able to see me do a ritual in public, and some of them have, that's very fortunate, because our coven is a closed coven, meaning we don't just have circle and open it up to any and everybody. Now, as far as gatekeeper and the term that's used in today's world, we have to understand something, is that we may be naturally gifted into something, but we need help sometimes to help hone that skill. And to me, a gatekeeper is there to help you. You have the keys, and this is, an elder told me this, and this was just a perfect explanation, because we were having that same discussion about a gatekeeper. And you see, the person, the student, novice, they have the keys. They hold the keys. They can take the keys and they can turn the lock and they can walk in the door themselves. The mentor, the teacher, or whatever you want to, whatever you want to call it, they are there to offer you the tools that you will need in order to hone your skill. When you are looking at magic, and when you are looking at this kind of path, and when you're looking into the occult path, it takes time. It takes discipline. And I mean, let's face it, how many of us are totally self-disciplined? You can't give yourself something that you don't have. So when you have this teacher, this mentor, guide, whatever you want to call it, when you have that, someone that's seasoned, someone that's walked their path for a minute, they help you with their experience. And experience is something that you can't buy. Mm-hmm. You can't read a book and, oh, I have this experience. It's something that you have to live. The mm-hmm. craft is a living path. It is it's living. And what that means is that you have to learn how to work with it, and you have to learn how it flows, and you have to learn how it tastes, how it feels, how it smells. You have to learn these things. And if you don't know what something is, how can you understand it? Mm-hmm. So it takes that gatekeeper to help you understand where this is going. When you have symbology, you can study these symbols, and this means this and this means this, but and if you'll go back in history, go back deeper, you start seeing more and more and more of what these things are. And let's face it, for this path in particular, a lot of this information is gone. Our history, especially the Celtic history, there's a lot mm-hmm. of that gone. A lot of these traditions were orally taught. They were orally taught for many different reasons. But one in particular, if they found any books, anything, it would have cost you your life, your family's life. You and your family would have been on the stake burning. Right. When we get to when you get to the witch burnings and the witch trials, there's villages in Germany that had not one woman left in the village. Not one woman. And, this could be anything. This could be plants. This could be all this different kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of our history that has been lost. So it mm-hmm. was passed down from word, from mouth to ear, grandmother to granddaughter, or mother to daughter, and so forth. And you would have these covens that you could get into, and a lot of time people didn't even know their real name. They didn't know their real name. It was secrecy, and people don't really understand that. They want to see it. There's nothing on that, so it's not real. No, there's nothing on that because of what happened. One of the things that we have to do is learn from our mistakes. Yes. And we have a history that is there to show us what we should and shouldn't do. And, now, as you know, we are in the dark half of the year. Mm-hmm. And at this dark half of the year, yes, we've just had the winter solstice, and we are in, the calendar new year of Capricorn, which is about building the groundwork, planning. Mm-hmm. So now is a good time for us to be looking forward, right? Mm-hmm. So you see, when you work with the wheel, when you work within that concept, you learn how to walk the path of astrology as well. And you don't know that when you haven't had any teaching, when you haven't had any seasoned person coming over and saying, hey, let me show you this. My students, every Sabbath, I don't care if they have been in, under, learning under me for 3 years or 6 months, whatever. Every Sabbath, you are to do a report. And yeah, okay, I can understand how, it can seem monotonous. But I told them that every Sabbath will bring you something new. Every single one. I don't care if it's the same one, because that's what the craft is. The craft grows. It's a living path. Mm-hmm. And that is, you learn from that. So, gatekeepers, I think we need them. We need them before sacred information is lost.
Interesting.
That's what we're looking at.
They're very, very interesting. And I knew that it would be a different outlook from your Celtic arraignment, because I know that they're definitely gatekeepers. Arraignment, I almost feel like a gatekeeper's within. And I guess it depends on school of thought or perception, mm-hmm. because I've had different people tell me different ways to express what a gatekeeper is. And what you're saying is a gatekeeper mm-hmm. is just a person that has wisdom, some person that has just learned in the craft and maybe holds on to that wisdom until a student appears and kind of passes that oral tradition on. Because you talked about the oral tradition, right. Which is, that's definitely happening within our current, so to speak. And yeah, there's not much literature or written documentation, prior to the Inquisition and the burning times. There isn't really that much, seldom writings. And that's why personally my favorite pagan writing comes from the Havamel, which is Norse, and because mm-hmm. there's a lack of written anything, couplets, right. But one thing that I have recognized throughout the years in Wicca is there's a few elements of Wicca that binds all Wiccans together, and one of them seems to be the charge of the goddess. Mm-hmm. It seems like most Wiccan traditions have that within their rites, their Sabbats, Isbets, and also it seems like a lot of them also have, what is it, the witch's rune? Couple different things. It kind of binds all Wiccans together. But yeah, I see in today's Wiccan culture, especially in America, what I see an abundance of baby witches. There is legions of novices and neophytes. There is only a handful of elders. All our right. elders are going on to the Summerlands that we've right. read about, are going right. on to Samaria, or being reincarnated, are leaving their legacy behind. And when we were, well, I'm going to say, speak with me, not you. When I was treading my path 20 years ago, the Wiccan Rede had purpose. It had merit. And it maybe does or doesn't in certain circles, but it's just nobody. What's the Wiccan Rede, they say? Those particular tenets of the craft. And really, there's only one law of the craft that can never be unchanged. And you and I both know what that is, that one law. Mm-hmm. But it's just the newer wave that's coming through. I'm concerned I'm only concerned with, first of all, 13. I'm only concerned with the present and the future of the craft. I'm not concerned of the past. But the future of our Wiccans, we need
Yeah,
some help here. Because the
right.
Wicca, like you said, it's a learner's faith. It's a learner's religion, but also Wicca is something that runs parallel to the same things that we believe with the cycles and rhythms of nature. It's continually evolving. Wicca is continually evolving, and I'm just kind of concerned of what that evolution is bringing. Where we have these neophytes out there calling themselves baby witches. What kind
Mm.
of will do you have when you call yourself a baby? And it's
Well,
because
I think that, well, for me, I'm going to back up a little bit because I think roots are important because
Mhm.
the roots are what feed the tree. Okay.
Yes,
And I do feel that we have to tend those roots. And a lot of people, when they find this path, they just want to do magic because it's about the
right.
Hollywood. And
Yep.
speaking of that, Neptune has really been in our charts, has really been playing an important part for the past couple years. And Neptune is in the sign of Pisces, which is its home sign. So this is
Mhm.
like dreamy. This is what I call the Hollywood placement. Now, people can get lost in that Hollywood. They want to do the magic. They want to do, wiggle their nose and all this kind of stuff. I want to wiggle my nose and have my house clean. But,
Mhm.
here we are. But as far as that is concerned, we have to understand one thing about Wicca is a religion. It
Mhm.
has been
Yeah.
deemed a religion by our government. And
Mhm.
in order for something to be deemed as a religion, it has to have a dogma, and it
Mhm.
has to have a set of laws or rules.
Right.
Many
Tenets.
people
Yeah.
don't know about the Wiccan Rede, but how many people know about the 161 laws that it has? I
Mm.
saw um, on, I won't mention names, but it was somebody who he's written books. He's been on several online different magazines, and he calls himself a Wiccan and all this. And he had no idea that there was a dogma or there was 161 laws in Wicca.
Right.
Had no idea
Now,
about that.
not to cut
And
you
there's
off,
also
Miss Rose, but
mhm,
the 161 that comes directly from Gardner, correct?
yes.
That comes from that
Well,
BOS,
mine,
right?
mine in particular, most people will say that, but mine in particular, mine comes from my coven.
Hmm.
And basically, what these laws are is like, it's the ones that they had to adhere by many years ago. You talk about living. Well, we live in a different world now, so we can have books on our shelves and not fear, someone
Right.
burning our house down with us inside of it. It's a different
Not so
kind
much.
of concept now. So, and
Mhm.
as far as growing, I think the growth is great, but what we can't do is forget about its core.
Mm.
And people, for some reason, it's really weird nowadays because it's like they don't want anybody, and this is what I'm seeing. This is just, what I'm seeing in the world is that people don't want boundaries, but they want labels. And I'm like,
Mm.
that doesn't, I'm Generation X. So it's like, with me it's like I grew up and you know I was the original anarchist, no government, no this, no that. But as I've gotten older and as I have walked further on my path, I had to understand the role of the God.
Mm.
And
Right.
the God is he represents the mortality, and the goddess is immortal. And when we
Mm.
look at this, and it took me a minute because this is what we also got to consider. Whether you were raised in a Christian household or one of the Abrahamic households or not, okay, you have grown up in a world where those religions, especially Christianity, is prominent. You know, I'm in South Georgia. I'm in
Bible
the
Belt.
Bible Belt.
Yep.
And yes, I was raised in church. I was. But it took me a while. And see, this is very important too. This is what people don't realize as well, is that you have to learn to reprogram your mind. We
Yes,
are
you
all
do.
born into this world with programmings all around us. We
Yes.
are programmed to think this way. This is right. This is wrong. We are, conditioned, indoctrinated.
Domesticated. Domesticated.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And we are put into this box, and many people don't understand that. They don't understand the bigger picture of what has happened. And it took me a while. It took me a while to actually get close to the God aspect. I was, yeah, the goddess, the goddess was fine. I'm not one of those who think, oh, the goddess is love and light and stuff like that. I'm sorry. When I met the goddess, it was, she's raw energy. She's primordial. So I was okay with that. But when it was the God aspect, I still had that conditioning, way back there. And I had to learn how to work through that. And it took me help, because if you don't know, if you don't realize, then you don't know. That's the whole thing. It's not bad to have somebody help you. It's not bad to have somebody walk the path with you, not hold your hand, not spoon feed you, but to be there with you and to understand what you're going through. I think for, those that are new on this, they're trying too hard to rush themselves into the door. Oh, this is wonderful. This is great. I'm going to stand on the rooftops but you have to understand what comes after that, the consequences of that. Because once you start bringing this stuff into your life, this stuff comes into your life. It's like, I've done paranormal investigations since 2008, and in Savannah, I worked for a company that we actually did paranormal investigations for different places. And one of the things that it was one person I was talking to, and she was saying how she started noticing more stuff that happened as she got more into doing the investigations. She began to notice more and more things in the outside world, not in the places that she was investigating, but in regular everyday life. And that's it. Once you cross that threshold, and things are a little different in this world. They're not like, okay, well, this is a deck of cards and I can see it. But in our world, this is energy. It's just vibrating at a lower rate, and, to make it where it looks like that it's solid, right? We see things in that different way. We see those tail energies, the waves, and they want to just go straight from zero to magic, and you can't do that because there is a building of you that has to be done. One of the 13 principles: know thyself.
Right.
Know thyself.
Yeah,
Number
that's
one.
a good one.
And how many people know thyself, know themselves? People can't even tell you, like, okay, explain, who are you? They'll say, oh, well, I work here, I do this, I'm a mother. No, who are you? They don't understand that. So how can you know thyself when you can't separate yourself from the different aspects that you represent? I don't know. It really confuses me. And I do see your concern. And I do have concern as well, because this is a very sacred path. And, people say this, that about Wicca, and they'll make fun of it, and they'll do this, and they'll do that. And that's okay, because I understand that it's coming from an experience that they had. I get that. But for
Mm.
me, this is beautiful. This
Yeah.
path is beautiful.
Yeah, Miss Rose, honestly speaking, nobody gets to make fun of the craft in front of the wolf. No.
Right.
But a bit of ego, but a bigger ego, I'm sure. So yeah, you speak of egos, the ego of people, and I've
Mhm.
noticed that in my own path is kind of like, well, what skin am I going to wear today? Is my skin a shamanistic skin? Is it that of the Wiccan, the witch? Is it the wise man? Is it the sage? What skin am I going to wear? What am I going to call myself? And that's kind of like self-identification. And
Right.
and just recently within the craft, we've seen the explosion of now the male witch is acceptable, and even some people in mainstream culture kind of grasp that now because there's just so much with that, and that's all good. So there's definitely an evolution with the craft in different aspects. The male duality, where you said that you had come to conclusion of the male aspects of divinity. I mean, divinity does have duality. I get that. And
Mhm.
yeah, there's just I didn't know that we would have a Wiccan conversation. I had you on as a tarot card astrologer, but I mean, actually, but absolutely, blessed be. In the comment section here on our viewing, Cloud the Pagan Rapper had said, the next generation of pagan leadership needs to stand up, to step up. And that's what
Right.
he had said. In Cloud the Pagan Rapper is true. It's true. There is a new, the middle aged, and I mean even I fit that bracket. I don't claim to be all wise, but what I claim to be is learning, because I will never. I'm always learning my life lesson. Every
Right.
day I'm trying to learn better things every day to be the best version of me possible. How can I reach my highest ideals today? What can I do to be the best
Mhm.
version of me? Whether that's in any different form, speaking. But yeah, I'm telling you, it's been a great interview with you. Lots of good energy, Aries energy, fiery. You have salamanders all around you, and I couldn't ask for anything more. My son is an Aries as well, so there's plenty of fire here tonight with Sirona Rose, a professional tarot card reader, astrologer, third degree high priestess.
Mhm.
Another one of the, not the last question, but another question that I want to ask you is,
Mhm.
any advice, and I might have asked it already, but any advice for the new Wiccan, 6 months in, a year in, just kind of floating around these pagan chat rooms, just kind of, and all the baneful and squibber squabble and egotistical stuff going on. What we have here is the third degree, the real deal. What do you have advice for these newbies?
Well, I have a lot of advice, but don't take everything as a grain of salt. Just because people tend to think that just because people write a book or they have some wonderful, like a doctor or all this kind of stuff, they think that they know what they're talking about. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You never know. But you really do your research. When you want to get a good author, get an author in books that actually are known. Doreen Valiente. Oh my goodness. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Right. She's the one
oh,
of the
my mind
elders.
is
That's the old school.
correct.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff that a lot of the newbies never heard of.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are writing books on Wicca that have not ever took a day of training in Wicca. How can you teach something if you have never went through and like Wicca, for example, for what is Wicca? What is this path? Well, this is a nature religion, yes, but it also requires studying, and it's degreed. it's initiation. And these are different things that you have to go through. And I promise you, I walked a
Earn.
solitary path. I walked that path. But when I got into training, I'm telling you, it blew my socks off. You talk about life change. You just, I mean, if it would take me forever to talk to you about the changing in my life that has happened. And what has went through, just the difference. And I'm gonna tell you something. Before I got into this training, now I had wonderful teachers. I had Alexandrian, I had Gardnerian, I had the Dinian men. I had that training. And of course it was just from here and there. It wasn't any kind of structured. But when you go into that structure, it blows your socks off. My advice to newbies is please just step back. And I understand you're going to have people, oh, you go your own way. Nobody tells you how to do anything. You need to do what you want to do. And I get that. I understand. But try to find you somebody that's seasoned, that has walked this path for a little bit. I'm not telling you that you have to dedicate your whole life to it. Just do a year and a day. Learn your foundation. Learn
Okay, you say
that
year and a day.
foundation is so important.
A lot of the newbies, sorry to cut you off. A lot of the newbies don't know the theory of a year and a day. A year and a day,
No.
where does that come from? Where's a year and a day come from?
It's your training. Your year and a day. It comes from that. This is how long it takes for you to, number one, walk the wheel.
Right.
You walk the wheel.
Right.
You experience that. You experience what the goddess and the god go through during that time. When you go and you celebrate, well, the ancient Celts, they had 2 times of the year. They didn't have all of the different Sabbaths. They had 2 times. They had the dark time and the light time. And Samhain was the beginning of the dark half of the month, or the year. And then you had Beltane, the beginning of the light half. What does that mean? What does that mean? And then you can hop on to this is my favorite thing I'm studying now, is archaeoastronomy, of how all of these ancient sites line up with different constellations. So you have these. Our people were smarter than we knew, or we think now. They are smarter than we think that they were. But they have all of these different teachings, all of these different things that come about. And the new ones, when they hop on these groups and they say, I'm just going to read a book from this, that, and the other, I'm not going to worry about that, I'm going to do things my way, they're really selling themselves short. I mean, just walk the wheel with a seasoned practitioner. Walk the wheel.
Stand on the shoulders of giants.
Right. And experience that. Experience what happens and what you go through. It really experience that. And I'm telling you, it will just truly, it will help them so much. And, it takes time to, rewire our brains too. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of those that are just starting, I don't like calling them newbies either, but, when they're just starting on this path, it's so overwhelming because they don't know where to begin. But, if you can't find a mentor or teacher, go to authors. You have,
Who's your favorite author?
I'm trying to think of her name right now, and I cannot even think of her name. She was Gerald Gardner's high priestess. He actually initiated her. I'm friends with her. Can't even think of her name. And that's sad. Can't even think of her name. But
It has.
I really look to her, and it'll come to me later. It'll come to me later. But, and I do have her book here, and I bet anything, if my high priestess is watching, she's probably laughing her butt off at me.
It
Um,
happens.
she has the book. She wrote the book "Lid Off the Cauldron."
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
She was right there with Doreen. Doreen Valiente is good. Janet, um,
Janet
Farr, I
Farrow.
can never. Yeah,
Wait, now
I have.
they're of a Celtic. Janet and Stuart Farr, they're of a Celtic tradition. Oh no, Alexandrians. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they did start out as Gardnerian.
Right.
They're Alexandrian,
Then they
and
stole the port. Right.
they have a book called The Witch's Bible, which is really good. That helps.
Yeah. It is.
That
It's
can
a great
help
book.
explain the
Yeah.
Sabbats. Excuse me.
Mhm. It's a great book. It's the most detailed book I've ever heard for ritual formats in the Wiccan religion. I think to print. I think actually.
Right. That's a really detailed book. I mean, it really, really is. I just, there's some things that I wouldn't have put in there, like self-initiation and stuff like that. I wouldn't have really put that in there. But, I didn't write the book. So, I try not to. I'm one of those that I don't really judge when it comes down to my tradition and my path. Now, then we're gonna get stickler. But for other people, I may not agree with it. But it's not mine. It's already done. What can I do about it?
Do you plan to write a
I
book?
hope. Yeah,
Are you gonna write?
I do.
Are you one day gonna write a book? You are. That's good. That's great.
I am in the process right now of writing a book, and it's.
And do you
I'm
have
kind of
limitations?
explaining.
Here's a good question. Great question for you. Do you
Okay.
have limitations? Do you have limitations by your coven, what you can and cannot say within your book?
Yes. Yes. It's a closed coven.
Next question. How important is secrecy in the craft?
I think it's very important. I think it's very important. And it's not because of some secret society where, we are having this big sacrifice, of babies or anything. It's nothing like that. It's basically the sacredness of it. And I've touched on that a lot during this when it comes to beginners and what's going on. Because if you do not know what something means, how can you appreciate it? If you do not understand how this works, how can you work with it? These are questions that we need to be asking ourselves. Why would you even want to know it? If you're not going to walk that path, why would you even care? Why would you even care? Nobody's hurting you. Live and let live, right? But yeah, there's some things that we keep quiet, and it's like any kind of anything that you respect and that you honor. You don't go blast it out into the world. Anybody can pick it up and
Maxine Sanders. Maxine Sanders?
She's one of them. Mm-hmm.
I thought that might have been the one that you were looking for.
No, Maxine Sanders. She is one of them. She's a great one too.
Patricia Crowther.
That's it. Patricia Crowther. Yes.
And that's coming from
Thank
Kate
you.
Jordan.
Patricia
Crowther was initiated by J.L.B. Gardner, because J.L.B. Gardner initiated more than one high priestess, I think. There was two of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that was some kind of love affair. Must have been. Anyway.
I have no idea. I have no idea. That was, Wicca, the last of the witchcraft laws were repealed in 1951. So that was when I believe it was 1952 that his book come out, which Witchcraft Today.
Yep.
He wrote another, and that's when it kind of got out there.
Right.
That's when it really got out there. But you got to think of the time, because soon after that you have the 60s. Love music and rock and roll. Was it love, rock and roll, whatever? But yeah. It was the 60s, and it was that time. That's just how it
Dor-
was back then, whether we see it as right or wrong or whatever. That's how people lived back then.
Okay, I got
But
another question for you. I
sure.
got a good question for you. Okay, Gerald B. Gardner, supposedly initiated by the New Forest Coven in England,
Hmm.
I suppose, by a high priestess named Dorothy Clutterbuck.
Correct.
Dorothy Clutterbuck is she fictional or genuine?
Actually, they did some research on that, and they did find out that she did exist. When they met, it was Dorothy met Gardner right outside of a like a theater. She invited
Yeah.
him for tea, and that's how that
Okay.
began.
Mhm.
From my research and from what I have found out, they did trace it back, and they did find her, and it was the story was true. And people like to say, oh, that's not true, it's this, that, and the other. It's like, you were not there. There was people that were there. This people have said, yes, this happened. They have found out that uh, controversy. Good and well, when you're going to be standing up on a pedestal when you've done something great, you're always going to have haters.
Mhm.
Always. I don't follow Gardnerian Wicca.
Mhm.
My path is different from very different. Well, there's some things that are similar, but different from Gardnerian Wicca, and that's his path, though. Most
Right.
people think that he's the one who started this.
Right.
No.
No.
What do you think? He just came up. This wasn't around. There were family. You have hereditary
Mhm.
covens that were around. You have all of these different sorts of things that existed before him. I think that it's very um, I feel that if you feel that there's not more to the story, then you're kind of missing a lot of information.
Mhm.
And people are going to believe what they're going to believe, because that's just how they are. But for me, I don't think that he is the father of Wicca the way that
Right.
you would view a father, so to speak.
Mhm.
I feel that he is the one that helped get it going. It was Buckland that actually brought it to the United States.
That's right.
He's the
That's
one
correct.
that brought it to the United States. And, of course, it was just him, and everybody wanted to learn from him. Everybody wanted to it was different from Christianity. They could actually
Right.
have fun, right?
The
So
interesting
it
thing
was.
about Buckland, the
Mhm,
interesting thing about Buckland is when he came over from England to America with his Wicca, it was
mhm.
I think it was the Seax with SEAX tradition.
Yeah,
Seax. How many Seax?
I think it's say Wicca.
Right, and
Hmm.
just for conversational purposes, how
Hmm.
many of those how many of those how many of those types of Wiccans have you ever met? I've never met one.
There's actually a group on Facebook, and I have talked to some. There's a couple that I chatted with that was from Brazil, but not
Scarce.
many.
Right,
Yeah, they're
right. So
very
it's
scarce.
interesting
So
what
that's
way
probably one of those
wondering
traditions that are going to
could
the
be,
wayside.
or they could just be in the shadows.
Correct. Well, the goddess's children are supposed to stay in the shadows, right?
Hmm. Power. That's powerful right
Exactly.
there.
Well, it's the thing of it is that the goddess calls many people.
Mm.
She'll call many people to her path, but there's only a few that will stay, because this is a path of work. You know, I never in my life have I done so much reading. You know, at this point where I am, I should have some kind of huge doctorate under my belt. But
Gotcha.
it's a lot. It's really a lot. But I mean, who knows? You know, I have feelings about that too, and seeing how things are going, and seeing how the, you know, disrespect that's being thrown by people who call themselves Wiccan and then insult the actual core
Mhm.
of the path. It kind of makes you want to go back underground as well.
Mhm. Miss Rose, if somebody watches this video, if somebody watches this video in the future or watching now, and they were like, "Wow, I really want to get a tarot reading from Miss Rose," how would they do that?
Hmm. They could just contact me on Facebook, or they could email me at theowlseer at gmail.com. It's THEOWLSEER at gmail.com.
Okay.
And they can contact me through that. I will say that as far as reading here lately, I've only been doing like the weekly readings, and I'll do the moon readings. Of course, it's been the holidays, so it's been really busy. I've been really slacking on that.
Mhm.
But you know, I went through some of personal healing I had to do, and some health stuff. So I'm just starting back doing readings again. When I'm working on myself and I'm having to heal physically, I do not feel that's a good time to do readings for anyone. If you're going through any kind of problems, things like that, it's time for you to shut the doors, so to speak, and go inside. But um, I did write up, it's so funny because we talked about Wicca, but I did write up some stuff about this year that in astrology, if you would like me to talk about that really quick.
Absolutely. Bring the
So,
thunder.
yeah, the year 2022 is number 6 in numerology. And this is about unconditional love, it's about compassion. This is about empathy, you know, and what is empathy? What is empathy? What is compassion? And I think the biggest compassion that, you know, everything starts with ourselves. So if we are not treating others, if we're treating others poorly, then we're treating ourselves poorly as well. So that's one thing that we have to look at is compassion. Also, it's about partnerships, and that's all kinds of partnerships. And that brings me to what's going on right now. Right now, Venus is retrograde in Capricorn. Now, this is Earth, very earthy energy, very goddess energy. But when she's in retrograde, she's having to go back on and look at things. Retrograde is all the re's, remembering, rethinking things, rediscovering. And when we look at Capricorn, well, Capricorn, it represents those that are of authority, right? So when she is in Capricorn, in this is an optical illusion. She's not really going backwards in the sky. It's just we've passed her. Um, it's a time when we're really going to look at our values. We're really going to look at what matters to us. What do we love? I think that this is going to be a year of simplicity. People are wanting to simplify. There's so much stress right now in our world. There's so
Mhm.
much different things going on. I mean, not only are we having to deal with the virus stuff, we also have to deal with our regular everyday things, our jobs,
Mhm.
our families, our this, our cars, paying the bills, this, that, and the other. You know, this is, you talk about something being in distress.
Mhm.
And when we are in stress, we know that in our body, it creates the chemical serotonin, which will make us gain weight, and it also weakens our immune system. So
Which isn't
it
good
does
right
make
now.
us sick. Right. It's not good right now. And
Right.
that's why we are having to look at, those things of what we value, of what we love. What are we investing ourselves in? This is the time that we look at our relationships and partnerships. This is all across the board, jobs, romantic, whatever. You're looking at them and you're like, okay, am I having to put myself out here? Is this hurting my family? I think that the lockdowns and stuff that we have been going through, I think that has been good for people, as it is bringing people back home and making them remember, hey, you have family here. You
Yeah.
are something else other than the slave or the little rat in the wheel going back and forth to work, right? You're human. You have a life. You have a meaning. And I think that's really, really helped, because, right now people are being pushed so hard to adapt to things.
Hmm.
It's just, you have to adapt. You have to, you have to cope with it. And that's not healthy. That's not a healthy thing, because it takes us away from, our authenticity, our truth of who we are. And that has been a theme in the past 2 years in astrology, is about being authentic, living your authentic life. Who are you? What is your core? And this is where I think this year is where we're going to have to start walking our talk with that. You say you want something, well, then you better step up to the plate.
Right.
It's time. I do feel that, I think that for, this year as well, those people who have addictions,
Hmm.
our bad habits, I think this is a good year that they can get rid of them, because they're, we're looking at our heart. Venus is the heart. Venus, she connects us to our heart. And when we are looking at our life, it's like, okay, is everything in alignment here? Is everything in alignment with us? So this is a very powerful time. I don't think this is going to be an easy year, because, again, we are in a state of change. Last year was a 5, and 5 is about transition, and that's what we're in. We're transitioning. The United States is having their Pluto return, and meaning in 1776, Pluto is in almost the same place as it was then. So yes, and Pluto is in Capricorn. Capricorn represents our government. Pluto, the lord of the underworld, he destroys. But he just doesn't destroy. He destroys in order to create.
Right.
And that is very important. We remember that he destroys in order to create. And we have Taurus. We have Uranus that's been in Taurus as well. That is connecting us to our money, to our food, how we produce it. It also our weather, everything that has to do with that. I do believe that we're going to see, with all these different influences. I mean, I hate making predictions and stuff, but I do feel
Right.
that there's going to be more changes in our earth. There's going to be more changes, like, with flooding, fires, because this,
Right.
again, we are in transition, and it doesn't make it easier. It just, if you know what's going on, you're going to be able to cope, or I don't want to say cope. I just don't like cope. But you're going to be able to move through these energies better, because what you want to do is you want to use these energies to help you live your highest potential.
Yeah.
And that's what astrology does. It teaches you, okay, this is the energy that's coming in. This is the influence that's happening right now. How can I use this in my life? And how can I use this information in order to, live my highest potential? And you said it earlier about being better than you were yesterday. That is the only
Yes.
competition that you should ever have in your life, is outdoing
Yeah.
yourself. I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
very competitive. I am very competitive. I always
Yeah.
have been. But I don't really compete against other people. I see how far I can push myself to be better, to do better, to oh wow, look at what I did, and if I win, I win. It's like, what is that? If you're not first, you're last. So, but it's all in good fun. As far as another, it's not egotistical. It's one of bettering yourself, being self-responsible, um, and just being accountable for you. And it's one of us going to be, this year is going to be us learning what sovereignty is as well. Sovereignty is one of those words that many people don't know. And if you've ever studied a Celtic past, you understand what sovereignty is. And you understand how sovereignty is so connected to the land, to the goddess, and to the god, that it's
I think
so important.
Lou would be a good definition of sovereignty. Lou
Oh
himself.
gosh, I love Lou. Lou is one of my favorite gods. He is
Yeah.
absolutely, he was remarkable, but he wasn't egotistical about it.
You don't think he
You know,
boasted?
yeah, you do boast here and there, but I'm not talking. I'm talking about the extent of it. Going far off into left field. Of course, you're going to brag about, look what I did. Woo. But he's just one of those gods that he's that light.
Right.
He is that light that helps you see. It gives you clarity. We are going to have, there is a placement that we're going to have. I'm going to have to read here a little bit because I made myself notes. There is a placement that we're going to have that's really going to be important, and this is going to be on the 14th of this month. We are going to have Mercury, which is our messenger, is going to be going retrograde. And that is really going to bring some things up, and this is okay because Venus is in retrograde as well. We also have on the 8th, we'll have Venus that will be conjunct. Let's see here. Venus and the Sun will be conjunct. And that is called the Venus star point. They'll be at 18 degrees of Capricorn. And that, on the 8th of this month, that is when a lot of us can get that light of clarity. That it's almost like almost like a new beginning.
Yeah.
It is it's a really important date. So that's January the 8th. That is when Venus and the Sun conjunct in Capricorn at 18 degrees. And that is called the Venus star point. So that is very, very important for those that manifest, that do that manifestation. That's very important for that. The Saturn and Mercury are right now in Aquarius, and that is really giving us that energy to push forward. But remember, guys, that we have to really, really understand what unfoldment of energy is. The unfolding. We always want to rush something. That's why it's like, knowing the future is not really a good thing, because we'll want to push and we'll want to do this and do that, and we'll miss the experience of it. And that's one thing that I see a lot of people doing, especially those that are new on the path. They want to push through the door. But you don't understand. You have to allow energy. You have to allow this stuff to bloom on its own like a butterfly. You have to allow it to come out and just scrape everything off so that you can have that new, so you can have that fresh start, so to speak. So I wanted to throw that in there because I know a lot of people they're just like, oh, it's so much. I want to do this. I want to manifest this. I want this. Why ain't this happening? This is supposed to be good. We need to remember divine timing as well. That
Hmm.
everything works in its own time. And this is why we look to nature to learn these
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
Watch a flower bloom. Look at the lotus. The lotus is always used because it comes out of the mud. It comes through the muck, through the darkness, up through the water, and it blooms beautifully.
Hmm. That's deep.
And, you know, so that's when we have in the rose, it unfolds one petal at a time. But in order to savor the beauty and the essence of the rose, you have to withstand the thorns because it
Hmm.
helps you appreciate the process.
Hmm.
People want to go so fast, forward so fast that they forget that they're just humans.
One thing I
You
say
may be a
often,
spirit.
one thing that I say often is to learn, we must first learn to suffer. And I read that somewhere in our grimoires, but to learn, we must first learn to suffer. And when you start saying the rose and then the thorn being, that reminds me of
Mm-hmm,
that. So that slogan kind of goes with the rose. To learn, we must first
mm-hmm.
learn to suffer.
It almost
I don't
sounds Buddhist or Taoist. But, and it's true because of the fact that it's only when you are uncomfortable that you grow. It's
know.
only when you are pushed out of your comfort zone that you try to find another way.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing of it is people go about it and they just react to it. So they're just acting out of that stress, that reaction, instead of responding to it. We have to learn to respond. And see, this is where discipline comes in. That's why it's important to to have somebody that has walked the path before, that has, lived it, that has, went through these things, because they can
Mm-hmm.
explain to you, you know, yes, but this is just a step. This is just a step. You know, we constantly learn stuff every day, and we truly are in a beautiful, beautiful place. And if everybody else would just realize that, I know it sounds utopian, but look at this technology we have. We have excellent technology, but what are we doing with it? You know? And, that's Aquarius. Aquarius is the forward thinker. The Aquarius is looking, and we have to be careful because we don't want to be too logical, right? We don't want to be in the mind too much till we make everything non-human. We have to remember our humanness, right? But we need to look at the future and how can we do this with our highest potential, the greatest good of all. That's the Aquarian, you know, of looking forward, go, looking into the future and how can we do this better? How can we do this better? And, I don't, people use social media for fussing and fighting about this and that and the other. And it's like, step outside the box and look at the bigger picture here. Look at the bigger picture. Because I'm going to tell you something. And when it's all said and done, everybody wants to be a pagan and everybody wants to be a witch and everybody wants to do that. But when it's all said and done, we're usually the people that the others look down on because we have, oh, they're pagans. They don't have gods. It's like, yes, we do. We have plenty of them. How many do you want?
All of
But,
them.
right. But it's that kind of concept. We have to really, I think, especially as pagans, we have to really, really look at a bigger picture and not get too caught up into mundane. Because when we are walking a magical path, we are expected to look at things differently, not to look
Mm-hmm.
at the physicalness of it, but also the energetic part of it. Because if everything is energy, then everything is energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just pick and choose what's energy and what's not. But we do have an interesting year ahead, and this, energy is just continuously shifting, and it is definitely a time where people are going to, I hate to say this, but level up. I do feel that people will become more spiritual. I do feel that many will start leaving those, like the organized religion, so to speak. It is very much one of truth and authenticity, and this year is going to be one where we just can't deny things anymore. We just can't. We have to be conscious.
With that being said, I'm going to end the broadcast. It's been fantastic. Oh, yeah. Love the energy. Learned a lot about Sirona Rose, your tradition, your values, your insights, all very important. Glad it was documented. We had a lot of good viewers, a lot of good conversation. Thank you so much for joining me on.
I wasn't able to see any of the comments, so if anybody talked to me, I'm so sorry. I can't see any comments. I'm sorry, but I will look at will they still be there when we get done?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna post the video around. But as we say, merry part.
Merry part until we meet again.
Beautiful love, a whisper in the night, a gentle dove. When the stars align and fate feels right, hold me close, hold me tight. When the dark nights, the sky anew, with every touch I fall deeper into you. Your heartbeat a rhythm.